Hi everybody. Hi guys. Welcome to my channel. Today we're doing a recap of Love Island Australia season 3 episodes. What are we? We're at 9 through 12 this week. So, and yes, as promised, I'm in costume for Halloween. I am Storm. Let's see the X-Men, one of my favorite Marvel superheroes. Uh, so I'll be in costume today. But we start off where we left off, which is Sophie Mom comes in to announce that Courtney was safe from her potential elimination because remember, they were basically recoupling, picking people, and Courtney was the last man out. And so Sophie comes in and she announces that Courtney's actually safe. Australia wants her to find love, tells her to sit down. She then announces for Aaron, Chris, and Taku to stand up, and they're all nervous and they don't know what's going on. But she tells them that actually these 3 boys are the boys that Australia most wants to find love, which is a great thing for them, but also a double-edged sword because it's also going to be their decision on which girl has to leave after this, instead of Courtney after this vote. She tells the girls that if she calls their name, they have to stand up. So she calls Rachel and Lexie, and she says it's between Rachel and Lexie. The top 3 boys have to choose. And I was immediately upset because I pretty much, from the way that things were going, unless they were going to go directly with gameplay, which these 3 boys, Aaron, Chris, and Taku, I knew they weren't going to do gameplay. But I pretty much figured that my girl Rachel was going to go home. Unfortunately for her, Lexie did have a really, really strong connection with Ryan in the villa. And so unless the boys really were just going to be complete game players, they were not going to send the girl with the strongest connection home. So they do choose Rachel. Rachel is upset. She wants Chris to leave with her, but he says that their connection was still kind of shaky and new. He doesn't feel like his journey is over with. Most of the Islanders also tell him that his journey isn't over with. And so he decides to stay. Rachel says she hopes to see him outside the villa if he's single at the end of the day. So we'll see about that. I highly doubt it. Chris was pretty much a hot commodity coming in. I think he'll find somebody on the island, unfortunately for Rachel. So the next day, everybody goes to sleep. The next day, Nicholas arrives, and he's into Courtney, and she also finds him attractive. And then at the same time, a few hours later, Zoe arrives. So she's also into 2 boys. She's into Taku and Chris, I believe. So we kind of see them, the OG Islanders, and kind of like leery because they just lost somebody, and now they are going to try to like keep the connections they're going, but now they have 2 new bombshells to deal with. Thank you, Kevin, so much. I it took me a while to come up with it, but I do love it. Um, so they are kind of leery on what they're going to do, but the guys obviously they're very open to Zoe. She seems to have like a nice little quirky attitude, kind of fun. And then the girls, Tina and Courtney, seem to be pretty much open to Nicholas. More Courtney than Tina. We see Aaron plan a mini date for Jess, which he says is not something he would normally do. He's not really like, a sappy kind of guy, but he really wants Jess to know that he really likes her and he's into her. And I was like, that's sweet. I'm glad that they're still trying to make sure that they keep their connection. Especially, there's been lots of bombshells coming in, but he's still really into Jess. Jess is still really into him after moving back from Taku. So I actually, really am happy for them. They're a little bit boring now, but I did like this little cute mini date that they did. Courtney and Nick are continue talking and they're making connections, and we see that they actually could have real chemistry going on. So that was pretty much episode 9. On episode 10, as we kind of continue from episode 9, Mitch is still kind of like going very slow with Emily. They didn't sleep together their first night in recoupling. They slept in, I think he slept in the day beds and she slept in the bed, and then the next night she did sleep with him, but he was kind of like turned away from her. They were very separate. It's not looking like the chemistry is being built, and in fact what we're seeing is as Tina and Nick kind of keep getting, to know each other, and Nick is kind of interested in Tina, and Tina is kind of interested in flirting with Nick, Mitch is like really jealous, and he's like, making, eye rolls and everything. And it's kind of like, I kind of understand that he's upset because it really wasn't a decision that was in his hands, but at this point the decision is in his hands. It wasn't in his hands when Emily chose him, but it is in his hands now to say to Emily or Tina, I want you or I don't want you. So Emily and Mitch have a conversation. He basically tells her, listen, I want to take things slow. Tells Tina that he misses her. He misses being in bed with her. He misses the connection they had, because really when he and Tina were together, they were very lovey-dovey. They were like hugged up and cuddling and kissing all the time. And so he feels like he can't do that because it'll be disrespectful to Emily. And he doesn't know how to continue pursuing Tina, because I feel like for him, he would want to go full force with Tina and continue going slower with Emily. So as we continue, we see the new bombshell Islanders, Zoe and Nicholas, having more conversations with most of the Islanders. The next morning, they get to actually choose 3 to do a breakfast date. So Zoe chooses Taku, Chris, and Ryan. Nick chooses Tina, Courtney, and Lexie. So actually, I feel like with Zoe, she had great conversations with all 3 boys. She had great chemistry with Taku. She had great chemistry with Chris. She had great chemistry with Ryan. With Nick, same thing. He had great chemistry with Tina. He had great chemistry with Courtney. He had great chemistry with Lexie. But Lexie had already told Ryan, I'm all in with you after everything that happened at the recoupling. She's like, you're the person I want to stay with. I don't want to put the same pressure on you. If that's not what you want, that's on you, but I'm going to be all in on you. So the Ryan and Lexie date seemed like it was kind of a moot point at that point. They're kind of just like all into each other, and really the strong couples right now are Aaron and Jess and Lexie and Ryan. And then we see like Tina and Mitch talk again. Actually, I think he talked to Emily first. Sorry. He talked to Emily first, and he basically breaks up with Emily and tells Tina he chooses her. She's the one that he wants. And then, he's going to go full force with her. Emily's a little upset. She had earlier been telling the girls she didn't know what to do because she didn't want to be an option. She kind of feels like she shouldn't have picked him. And so she's not sure where she's going to go from there. Then we see with Ronnie and Ari, they're burnt out at this point. They are kind of just friends, a friendship couple. Whatever spark they thought they might have going from that last recoupling is out. Ari is like taking very slow to even continue with whatever relationship they have. Ronnie is like, he understands. He's just not. He's trying to go full force with her, but he knows that it's not reciprocal. So he's kind of cutting it. So then we see Emily decide she is going to pivot back to Taku. So when she came into the villa, Taku was one of the men on her list. They had a really good banter, really good chemistry. She decided, hey, I don't have any other connection, so I'm going to go back to the guy who he was really interested in me. We had really great chemistry, and that's Taku. Taku's like, well, I feel kind of like a second option now, but I'm going to explore it because I think we have really good chemistry. I'm really attracted to you. And then she decides she wants to open up to Taku by telling him before she got into the villa, she had a sexy dream about him. And he's like, oh, he didn't know how to take that. I didn't know how to take that. So he was like, okay, so I think she was just trying to say that he was on the top of her list. It just that the connection she found when she came in was Mitch, but she's really attracted to Taku. So later we have another recoupling. Nick and Zoe get to choose who they're going to be coupled up with. And then we really didn't have any kind of waves broken basically in this recoupling. Nick chooses Courtney, who was single, and Zoe chooses Chris, who was single. So basically all the Islanders are paired up. They get a warning text on this recoupling that they never know what could happen. And so they know that they're on notice that at any time another elimination can happen. So that was episode 10. We go into episode 11. Tina and Mitch are still sleeping outside because we haven't had a recoupling with all the couples. It was just Zoe and Nick got to choose their coupling. So Tina is technically still coupled up with Taku, and Emily is still coupled up with Mitch. But then we see, because Emily and Taku are in their own little beds, Emily's like hopping into Taku's bed and they're making out and they're going like full PDA during the day. And so this kind of makes the girls a little leery because they're like, what just happened? Yesterday you were all into Mitch. You wanted everything from him. And today you're like all into Taku. How do you just jump feelings like that? And so Tina has a conversation with Taku, and Taku's like, he doesn't know what he's supposed to do because if he doesn't have any other connection in the villa, and the only connection he has is with Emily, and he is attracted to her. So he's like, right now it feels like I would be putting ego ahead of what I'm supposed to be doing, which is trying to find a connection by not exploring the connection that we could potentially have. And I agree with him. Like, it would have been silly for him to just sit around and be like, oh well, she didn't choose me first, so I'm not even going to pay her any attention. He has to go, and it's not like he was like not attracted to her. He was actually really attracted to her. So he was like, listen, I have to explore the connection that I have available to me. And so he's like, I'm just going to do it. So he's like, but I'm going to have a conversation with her to see like where she's at, how things are developing, make sure that she's in this correctly. So we see that Jess and Aaron, Lexie and Ryan, they're still going strong. We're not really getting too much of them. It's just kind of more conversation of, hey, I'm still into you. Hey, I'm still into you. I love our connection, love where we're going. I do have to say, I feel like these last couple episodes I liked a lot better because they did a lot less of those little mini games, which I feel like wasn't really showing us like where everybody's. It was interrupting, showing us how everybody's connections were developing, and so we kept seeing like couples burning out, and we're like, what's going on with the couple? How come they're burning out? We're not understanding it. By doing less mini games, we're getting to see how the couples are really developing their connections, finding their connections, exploring everything. And Adrian says Taku made the best decision at the time, and I agree. I feel like it wasn't any other decision that he could make. There was no other connection. None of the other girls liked him in that way. They were all friends, and even his one friendship couple he was in, which was Tina, was gonna choose Mitch at the end of the day. So there was no other. There was nothing else for him to do. I do understand why the girls were leery. I do understand their point of view, but I also didn't understand some of the things that they did and their feelings towards the end of this episode, and we're going to get to that. So then they do a mini game on this episode where the Australia talks about how they think of each islander. Like they said that Emily was the best bomb to come in, and so I think that was a good game because we did get to see a lot of where Australia was thinking about each personality, and so we could kind of get an idea. Especially, I'm not in Australia, as I said before, so I don't know how they're voting and coming up with these votes because there's some characters on here that I'm just like, yeah, I wouldn't have voted for her or him, but they did. So then we see Ronnie kind of put his foot in his mouth because he's like, at this point, to Tina and I think it was Chris or Ryan. I can't remember which guy was sitting there, but he basically was like, at this point, he's out of a connection. He doesn't know what he's supposed to do. He would have to try to like kind of fake a connection with Emily at this point to go through. And Tina gets upset. She's like, well, these are my friends. Like, why are you doing that? They're all here for love. And I'm just kind of like, well, Tina, I don't understand. You don't want Emily with Taku, but you also don't want Ronnie to use her to stay in the villa. So it's kind of like, which one do you want? Because is it that you like, if he was trying to find a connection, you don't know if maybe they would find something. And the same thing with Taku and Emily. Even if she was kind of faking it, you don't know if maybe it would develop over time. So I feel like it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Which one do you guys want them to do? Do you want them to fake their feelings, or do you guys want them to try and explore and see if something is there? I personally would say the second one. But she didn't like that. She goes back and tells all the girls that that's what he said. So they weren't appreciated. Ari feels like that's what he was doing with her. And I'm sure that is what he was doing with her, but that's also what she was doing with him, because their spark burns out really quickly. So kind of like, Ari, you've been searching for a connection here the entire time. I know you connected with Ryan, but he found a better connection. So at this point, it's like either you try to see if the connection is there and stay with the person that you thought you might have a connection with until the new person comes in, or you keep it moving. But I feel like Ronnie did at least try to say to Ari, like, okay, we're not there. Let's figure out where we move from here. And I don't think he got enough credit for that. Did he put his foot in his mouth? Yes. But I also understood where he was coming from. So then we have another elimination. I will say this. I am loving all these eliminations. If you're going to keep bringing bombs in the way that you're doing, we saw this with Love Island USA. They kept dropping bombshells, and then it was like these recouplings didn't make any sense because they kept allowing the Islanders at every decision to make and all the Islanders, all the OGs, everybody was making the decision on who to stay and who to go. So I actually really, really like the way they did this one, because they said, had the girls choose, they had the girls choose one guy to leave, because it was a double elimination. They had the boys choose one girl to leave. The way they did it was the new partners, Chris and Zoe, and who's the other? Courtney and Nick did not get to be a part of the decision because they were safe from an elimination. So because they were safe, they also were not allowed to make the decision. And they were freaking out, especially Courtney. Now, I pretty much knew which boy was going to go home. Again, we just talked about it. Ronnie put his foot in his mouth. The girls didn't feel like he was genuine or there generally to make a connection. I don't know if Ronnie wasn't there to make a connection or wasn't there to be genuine. I just feel like his connection was just never there. And that happens, especially, we saw it in other Love Island series. When you have a guy who leads with humor, it's really hard for the girls to take serious. And then there are girls who like a humorous guy. I just feel like sometimes that's not usually with the people in the OGs. And so, the humorous guy ends up getting cut. So the girls do choose Ronnie. Fine. The boys, I knew were going to have a harder decision, because it really was going to come down to who was not in a strong coupling. And the only two not in a strong coupling was Ari and Emily. And so the boys deliberated, they debated, they were kind of upset because they didn't know what to do. They wanted to eliminate Emily at first, even though she had a connection with Taku. And they tried to tell Taku, I'm sorry. Taku said, well, that's not fair to me. Emily has been trying to build a connection with me, whether you guys believe that the connection is strong or not. Ari is not building a connection with anybody, so I should be allowed to explore my connection. At the end of the day, Mitch, Ryan, and Nicholas, no, sorry, I don't know who was the last boy. Taku decide they're going to allow Emily to stay. Aaron apparently said no, he wanted Ari, but we also know that Aaron was close to Ari. So the boys announced that Ari is the one gone. The girls are livid. They're livid. Ari is livid. Tina is livid. Courtney especially is livid. And they're mad at the boys and Taku and Emily. And my whole thing was like, they even sent it in a text. It is Love Island, not Friendship Island. Their whole thing is, oh, I'm mad at the boys because they did not protect Ari. She thought that they were her friends, and so that they would protect her from the vote. But why would they do that when you had no connection in there? So they were supposed to hold your place so that in case you maybe found a connection later. But what about Taku when he already had a connection with somebody? Whether you guys agreed with that connection, whether you guys felt that connection was true or not, he was working on the connection. I don't understand this thing of she was supposed to be protected by the boys to find her connection. That was like, that thought process made absolutely no sense to me. Like, absolutely, it didn't make sense based on the show, and it didn't make sense based on what was happening in the villa. I agree, Adrian. Ari deserved to go home, and she wasn't into Taku. Which was from like day one. She had a chance to couple up with Taku. She chose Ryan instead, or Aaron, one of the two. And so it was never like she was going to build a connection with Taku. It would have just been her holding a place until a bomb came in for either one of them to like explore connection with. I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. And I thought it was ridiculous for the girls to be upset with the boys for their choice. So we see episode 12, the girls are still livid. Aaron explains to Jess that, you know, he was the only one holdout on Emily staying. He wanted Ari to stay. So the girls are upset. Courtney has to talk to the boys to understand what's going on. Emily states, well, she's like, at least she was trying to find a connection, and Ari wasn't. And while it was kind of harsh, it was very true. So I'm just not sure what else were the boys supposed to do. But after their conversation with Courtney seemed to understand it more. She just still was like, well, Emily's not really into Taku, so I just feel like it was the wrong decision. The boys said they took a chance for Taku because he's also their friend. And hey, who can be mad at that? I don't understand how you can be mad at that. So then we see that in the next scene, Nick is not opening up to Courtney. And I'm like, girl, you need to be worried about your own current connection in the villa, because Nick is like standoffish. He's not really talking to her. She doesn't know what to do. She realizes he could be in his head, but she's like not getting anything from him. I'm like, girl, concentrate on that. Don't worry about Emily. Don't worry about Taku. You need to worry about whether the connection that you've made in the last couple of days is actually a true connection. Because I keep seeing this happening where these bombshells come in, or the OGs are there, they couple up with one another, and then the next thing you know, the chemistry is burning out. And I'm like, I don't understand what you guys are not doing to keep these connections going. Is it personalities? Because I'm not seeing that a lot of them have like really, really strong personalities. And in fact, the ones with the really strong personalities are gone. We've lost Ari, strong personality. We lost Rachel, strong personality. Most of the girls and the guys that are there, we lost Ronnie, strong personality. Most of the guys and girls that are there don't really have very strong personalities that would be off-putting. So I'm not sure what they're doing, that they're not keeping these connections. But then we see that they do another game where it's kind of beer pong, where they have to answer these questions. And I'm not going to go into every single one, but we'll focus on the one that kind of impacts the relationship in the house, which is Taco gets asked which girl that he has had a fantasy about that he's not partnered with. And playing the game, again, Taco is still coupled up with Tina. Mitch is still coupled up with Emily. So they have to partner up. And so Taco could have kissed Emily, but Taku decides to go, and this is kind of why I really do like Taku. I feel like he's so genuine. I feel like he's so honest, probably to a fault, probably too much, but I really do feel like he's really there to find love and to be open and honest about his feelings and where he is. So instead of kissing Emily like he probably should have, he kisses Courtney of all people because he said that he saw her in like a dress or a bathing suit and he was thinking about her, which was hilarious to me. And then they had another one where someone had to ask which guy would go after any new bombshell that came in, and they said Taku. The girls kind of were going after Emily, that there's different things that she would probably still do because her connection with Taku wasn't strong enough or whatever it is. Uh, and then like one of the last questions was which girl would come in and go after a new guy bombshell that came in, and the question went to Taku, and Taku answered Emily, even though he's into her. So Emily was offended. I kind of understood why she was offended, but we all kind of know that he was being honest. They don't have the strongest connection. They have the newest relationship. So yeah, if first of all, those are the two people that any bombshell that comes into the villa are going to go after. And so yeah, they probably would entertain them as they should. She was just felt like all the Australia was going after her like a little bit, and now the girls were going after her, and the guys were going after her, and Taku, who's supposed to want to be in a couple with her, did not have her back in the way that she needed. Taku does explain why he's like, I was just being honest, but you're right. I probably should have kissed you or whatever, but I'm really attracted to you. I really want to be with you. And they kind of, start making a joke out of it, and they kiss and they kind of make up. So then we finally see that there's another recoupling, and this is the one where girls get to choose. And so Sophie Monk shows up, who's the host of the show, and she allows the girls to come up and the guys to come up, and then the girls to choose who they want. So then we see Emily chooses Taku, Zoe chooses Chris, Lexie chooses Ryan, Courtney chooses Nick, Jess chooses Aaron, and Tina chooses Mitch. And she tells them that that's about all that they get to choose because all the girls need to come to the front. Australia has been voting, and Australia has been voting for the girl who's most likely to leave the villa with a partner. And the girls all stand there, and she sends back the girls with the highest votes in no particular order. And there's 3 girls left standing. And at this point, if this was Love Island USA, the Islanders would get to choose which girl gets to stay. But they went with the girl with the lowest votes. So the 3 girls left standing are Lexie, Tina, and Emily. She gives Lexie a heart attack and calls her name, and Lexie freaks out and thinks that it's her that's going home. But she said, no, Australia still wants you, thinks that you would leave with a partner. You could go sit down. We do have to wonder, Lexie and Ryan are probably the strongest couple currently in there. Lexie keeps landing in the bottom. What about her Australia is not liking? I don't necessarily feel like she's has like any type of um, personality that's totally off-putting, but she's a little boring and a little safe. But they do make a cute couple, and she did say she was all in on Ryan. So I'm not really sure why Australia keeps voting Lexie into the bottom, but it is what it is. And so Lexie goes back to sit. She says that she's upset. This is a tough decision, but she is glad that she is safe. Everybody else is freaking out because it's between Tina and Emily, and they're basically praying that Australia made the right decision. Ultimately, Australia chooses for Emily to leave and Tina to be safe. Probably the best decision because, again, Emily and Taku were the ones with the newest connection and probably the least strong. So that is it for all the episodes for this week. And we see that based on a preview for next week, Casa Amor is coming, people. So praise the Villa Gods. Casa Amor is ahead of us. So we're all hoping, well, I'm all hoping that Taku finds his woman come Monday, because Casa hits on Monday, and he is pretty much the only single islander. So he has his choice of women. We already know that a couple of the women are, I don't have my iPad, but a couple of the women are going to be coming after him. And you know me, you know what I'm looking for. We have not had a Black woman come into the villa at this point in Australia. So I need me a Black woman to at least come and go after Taku. And we do have a couple of Black women, it looks like, who will be coming to the villa. And so let me see their names. One is Audrey. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. Audrey. And how beautiful is she? And then I'll show you one of her other pictures. She's just gorgeous. I love her. So she'll be a Casa girl. And then we also have Michaela, who, again, I believe she's Black. She's also very gorgeous. Or at least maybe biracial. And I believe, based on some interviews, she also is interested. They're both interested in Taku. So that'd be great. We do have one Black man who will be entering the villa. His name is Shane. That's his villa picture. Will be entering. I'm not sure if any girl would be interested in him. Probably depends on his personality. He's a little cute, but we'll see. But I'm excited for Casa Amor come Monday. We're gonna see if Casa is able to shake up the villa. We do have some very safe couples in there, some very, supposedly strong couples. So we want to see if they're going to continue on their path, or Casa Amor is gonna kind of give them, new connections to explore or find. But we also know our man Taku's going into the villa extremely single. So whatever connection he finds, hopefully it's strong and they're able to build and continue. Because I kind of want Taku to win this show. I don't know if it's possible. I don't get to vote in Australia. That's the only thing. But anything anybody else wants to talk about or mention I'm just really excited for Casa Amor next week. I'm excited to see where we go. Again, I know we're going quickly, but again, they only have 4 weeks to do this show, and we are now on week. What are we? Week 2. So no, week 3. So they have about one more week to wrap this up. So I'm wondering if Casa is going to be only like a day or two, like half of next week, and then maybe two more days, and then I don't know. They're only allowed to film for 4 weeks, so for 30 days. So we'll see what happens with the show, because again, I think I said this in my last recap. I don't know how they're going to wrap up these storylines in 4 weeks. It's been so hard to see how they wrap up storylines on Love Island USA in 6 weeks. UK with their 8 weeks, I think, is able to do it, but I'm sure they're going to have to cut out like all the end of the show stuff, like meet the families, and unless they do them by video, and babies and final dates. I don't know. They haven't really been doing dates. They've been doing mini dates that the Islanders. I do like that. I did wanted to mention that I really like that. I like the fact that the guys have been doing like mini dates, kind of like if you watch Bachelor in Paradise, the guys have to do like mini dates for their connections that they find in paradise, that they work with the producers to come up with. I like that Australia does this. I hope that they are able to like maybe integrate that in some other series, because I really like that the guys get to show how they're feeling, and maybe we'll see like in other series the girls get to do it too, where they get to show that they're really into their connection by doing this mini stuff. I think I do have to say, actually, I might be wrong. I think we just didn't see that in season 3 of Love Island USA, because Love Island USA season 2, they did do little dates. We did see them do, even Justine and Sally got to do some mini dates with each other. So I would like to see if there's season 4 of Love Island USA. I would like to see a little more mini dates, because I really do like that. Yes, Adrian, I had to look it up. I think last recap, because I wasn't sure how long I had read that there were some issues. I think with COVID, they had like a little bit of issue where like some crew members might have gotten COVID, and then the mayor, because of that, like the mayor of the town was not happy, and basically said, listen, y'all have like 4 weeks or 30 days, and you've got to shut down production. So I don't know if they're going to like stay in the villa for 30 days and then maybe move someplace else to do the rest of the show. That's possible, but we'll see how they decide to wrap up this show, because I, for right now, can't even figure out how they would wrap up this show at this point, because it's really like there's some, even with Casa Amor, I don't know how you continue to explore connections. I mean, how are you going to do that without another week at least? I don't know. But I really do hope that at least Taku finds somebody that he can either, win the show with, or continue building outside the villa with. And I hope it's one of those Black women. Just because, me, I love Black love. So, guys, if there's nothing else, thank you for joining me on this recap. Let me see. Just so you see here. Remember to follow me at Entertainment in Color, at Entertainment in Color on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And I'm bringing as much content as I can for different shows. Tonight is Insecure. So I will be doing my Insecure recap hopefully tomorrow at 6:30. And then we also have, I'm going to be putting out, because tonight is Halloween, as you can see. Tonight is Halloween, but tomorrow starts Christmas. I know you folks are like, it's November, Tamika. There's no way it starts Christmas, but it starts Christmas in entertainment. So tomorrow I will be putting out my entertainment in color list of all the holiday and Christmas movies that will be showing in 2021 that star people of color. And so we've actually already had some movies premiere in the last couple of weeks on Hallmark. But there's some really cool movies coming out that I'm going to make a list. So you guys will have a handy dandy list. If you're like me, you love your rom-coms, you love your holiday movies, you'll have the list on my IG so that you can always know when the holiday movie starring your favorite people of color, actors and actresses are going to come out in the next couple of weeks. So there have been some movies already that came out that I've actually watched. So I'll recommend the ones that I liked of the ones that I've seen. But there are going to be mostly a lot of movies already coming out November in the next week or two, and then they'll re-show them in December. So I can't wait to bring you guys that. And if there's any other content you guys want to see or hear about, always reach out to me at my social media. I'm always here to give the people what they want. And don't forget to follow me on TikTok too, where I'll be doing my random movie Mondays and bringing some cute little content that I can bring. So thank you guys for joining me tonight. Join me tomorrow for Insecure's recap if you watch Insecure, even if you don't watch Insecure. And hopefully I'll be able to bring you our next recap of Love Island Australia Season 3, the next 4 episodes next Sunday. So thank you guys for coming, and see you soon, guys. Have a good night and a good happy Halloween.